Hey, welcome back to Bullpen Sessions. I am excited today to have Ross Connor join me. Ross is a partner with Hotchkiss Insurance in Fort Worth, Texas. Ross has got a pretty amazing story. He actually did not get in the insurance industry by design. He was a general contractor who was an unfortunate casualty of the 2008 recession and found himself working for the very firm that was his insurance advisor when he was a general contractor. This man has a hell of a sense of humor, and he knows what it takes to show up as your authentic self. So I'm excited to have Ross join today's episode. I'm excited for you to get to know who he is, the man behind the myth of building an insurance practice, one that allows you to show up as who you are. And you'll even learn a little bit about Ross, like the fact he has adopted 5 children. Think about that. So I'm excited to have you meet Ross. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey, welcome to the Bullpen Sessions podcast, a podcast for driven insurance professionals who are looking to reach their full potential in their insurance careers. This is the place where we help motivated insurance professionals build the right mindset and tools to create more credibility with their target prospects. I'm your host, Andy NEARY, former professional athlete turned insurance advisor. Each week, you will learn tips and strategies to help you execute a clear prospecting game plan every single week. Clarity creates action. When you're clear, you're confident. When you're confident, you're consistent. When you're consistent, you are unstoppable. All right. Let's dive into today's episode. Ross, welcome back. And I shouldn't say welcome back. You were on the Broker's Voice. Welcome to Bullpen Sessions.
You bet.
So I'm excited to have you. Thanks for taking the time to be here. Chris Hamilton's teammate.
That's right.
Chris has been on an episode as well. I don't get a chance to interview a lot of commercial producers. For whatever reasons, probably because of my background, I interview a lot of employee benefit advisors. But in this case, commercial producer with Hotchkiss. My goal with this episode was just going to let people get to know Ross Connor, because I think you've got amazing stories. We're going to get some of them out of you today. But actually, I want to start, most of us didn't get in the industry by design. And that's definitely your story. Talk to us a little bit about, one, what your career was prior to the insurance industry and what led you to getting in the insurance industry.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. So I had a business. I was a general contractor doing light commercial work and some residential, mostly custom residential, and kind of did all that by default. Got just backed into construction in a roundabout way, but really loved it. I love the tangibility of it. I would have told you back in 07 and 06 that I was just born to do this. I love it. And had a business degree from a great university, but just kind of put that on the shelf and got in amongst the mud, blood, and beer and loved it. The mortgage crisis in 08, 09 had a major effect on what I was doing because people didn't have the disposable income to invest in houses. People had money back then. There's quite a few people lost money, don't get me wrong, but they just didn't want to spend it. So we suffered a major financial loss with some spec inventory we couldn't sell. And so I started looking around. My firm at Hotchkiss insured me for a while I could even afford it and have it, coverage, liability and comp and all those things that we do for our clients. And so, but there came a time, and even in the region I was in, where people didn't have it and people were dropping it. And so there was this time, and so you look at the why behind what you do. And there was a time, during that time, I have 6 children. We were adopting through the foster system 5 of those 6.
Wow.
And so while income is taking a sharp decrease below zero, family and needs and food and provision was really on the increase. So something had to give. And so I think, not to go too far into it, but it helped me define a why behind what we're doing, because during that time, I was super exposed financially in a host of areas. Commuted 2.5 hours from a small town in East Texas to the Metroplex in Dallas-Fort Worth to start Hawking Insurance starting in 2010 and working for the same firm that insured me, because I knew the industry was good. I never sought out to be an insurance guy ever. It was the last thing I ever thought I'd be doing. But part of, I guess, what I want to talk about today, what you want me to talk about, is just why do you do the things you do? But what about the industry really, appeals to me and helps me do and be myself because I could be myself in a lot of industries, but I happen to love this one for a host of reasons. And I kind of fell into it, as most people have done, right? And so, financial ruin led me to have a career change in 2010 and start rebuilding things for my growing family.
That's interesting. I've heard stories before where an insurance agency ends up convincing a client, somebody who works at a client, to come work for them, right? Mm-hmm. It could be an HR director, it could be whoever. And in your case, that's kind of a unique story. You actually were a client, but you owned the general contracting business, ultimately folded up the business and went to work for the agency who insured you. That's pretty unique.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to me about this, though. I heard 5 adopted children. Now, my memory is leaving me right now. Are those what I want to call domestic adoptions or international?
All domestic.
Okay. What's that like to run a household where you have 6 kids, but 5 coming from completely different backgrounds?
Oh, yeah. Man, our journey began a little bit. I was living in Denver, Colorado, working for a large national home builder, and we were struggling with infertility and wound up having my son eventually, my one biological child who's older, and he's the oldest in the group. And but then after that, we still struggled with it. We couldn't seem to get pregnant. And so that's part of the impetus to go down that road. I think, hindsight, I think we probably would have gone down the foster system adoption road, which is what we did anyway. But I'm not certain if we would have had 3 biological children, and that was the plan all along, or however many. You never what curveballs life's going to throw at you. And so that led us to start going down that road. And then international adoption was really popular at the time. Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie had just adopted kids from Ethiopia, and it was all in the national news. And so we started kind of looking around going, oh, there's a huge need internationally, but like God kept closing door after door after door. And then financially, at one point in our business, it wasn't a concern. Yeah, we had the money. We could go and spend money. It's $20,000, $30,000 and travel and fees and attorney fees. And then money became an issue. And so all those things kind of collided, and we're like, okay. We were even looking in China at one point. The Beijing Olympics happened in 2008, and then China closed the door on adoptions. They didn't want a bunch of American babies leaving while Americans and people were coming over. And so, or a bunch of babies leaving. So, we started looking at the foster system, and I never knew how that whole system worked. But, man, it was such a journey. I want to say interesting, awesome, but full of tons of heartbreak. Yep. And but you get the strength. God gives you the strength to move through those things and the hard times when you have kids you think you're going to get and keep, and you got to give back. But they knew all along that we wanted to create a permanent family with kids that just couldn't, for whatever reason, be reunited. And the reasons, and my kids' stories are really individual and unique as to why they couldn't be reunited. And it's heartbreaking. But we were able to provide a life for them, and we do it today.
Well, you think about it, parenting is obviously a form of leadership, but in this case, where you've got kids coming from all different places, it's like you're putting a team together, right? Like if you're building an organization, you're hiring people with all different backgrounds, and you've got to figure out a way to mesh as a cohesive unit, right?
Yeah.
That's probably what it felt like. These aren't kids you raised from birth.
Yeah.
These are children coming with different backgrounds, out of your control, their own, call it baggage, whatever you want to call it, but you have to now make this a cohesive unit. Yeah. I'm sure that has taught you so many lessons.
It has. And I think one of the biggest lessons it's taught me is not to compare myself with other people. I grew up a real extreme people pleaser, struggling with, and I think we all do that a little bit, and it's great to have role models and goals, and this is where I want to go, and I want to emulate what that person does and those things. But when it comes to parenting and building a family, and this does translate to business as well, back to one of the things you and I always talk about, is just being yourself and comfortable in your own skin. 2 days to 3 years. We got kids as young as 2 days old and as old as 3 years old. So the 2-day-old, it's all on us. If he's messed up, it's like, that's us. Because it's all about nurture and those things. But some of those kids, even in that, and parents know those first couple of years, the nurturing component, and when that's missing, parenting kids from hard places, we call it, hard places, that's given me I think, a level of empathy that does transcend into business that I never would have had. In terms of differences and respecting and not snapping to judgments. I think pre-foster adoption, I was a very judgmental person. I think just, this is pretty black and white. This is how the world works, and you're not a part of this. Dude, yeah, you gotta.
That's a really good point, because the comment I was going to make, great perspective. When you get to adopt a child 2 days old, you're raising the child. But if you adopt a child 3 years old, the thing about kids, they don't get to choose, right? That 3-year-old doesn't get to choose his or her path for the first 3 years of their life, and so you have to have unbelievable amounts of empathy.
Oh, and grace and just in lack of, the script that runs in a lot of our heads is, man, you know what? If I would have done that to my dad and he would have done, that script used to run nonstop in my brain, and I finally got rid of that script and threw that tape away, because our situation was completely different. So it required a different response for me that I wasn't really pre-programmed to give. I want to bring hammers when soft gloves are needed. And so, yeah, I think it's matured. It's created empathy. It's done a lot of things that
well, I was going to say too, just being a parent of 6 children, the lessons that you probably learn under your own roof that you apply to your business have to be massive. The first word that comes to my mind is patience. When you're a parent of 6, I got to believe you've got to have a pretty high level of patience. But at the same time, I have to believe that has had a very positive impact on how you run your business.
Yeah, I think it has had a positive impact. I know it has. I would say it's done more. It's allowed me to see things as not that big of a deal. It's given me kind of it's going to be all right factor that I probably didn't have before. I come from a very small family. I'm talking like one first cousin on both sides, like tiny. We just kind of blew the doors off of all that in my family. And so, again, I grew up a certain way, and it's really changed me. And I think, but contrary to what you said, I think it's given me patience, yes, but time is of the essence. And so the busyness, the foot on the gas pedal mentality, the get some things done, multitasking, I think I have to be even more efficient, make hard calls to say no. I've said no 5 times this week to things I really wanted to do. And I don't always succeed. I sometimes get way over my skis.
The people pleaser in you in the past would have said yes to everything.
Sure. Yeah. And I still do. I still make mistakes and regret them, overcommitting myself. But it's a lot few and far between, because I think my value, my time's, we're all valuable, but it's even more valuable when I look at not just monetary, but, I should be home at 5:30 today and have to be because of these things, which are massive, from 5:30 to 9:30, when I'm eating, practicing, or whatever with the kids, and my wife, carving time with her. It's all intentional. You have to be intentional to do those things. You've been real good, I think, too, with intentionality, and that's part of that is you, man, Andy. And so I've enjoyed our time together, because intentional people motivate me.
I appreciate that. What are the current age ranges of the 6 kids right now? Where are they at from an age perspective?
They're now 8 to 20.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
One thing I've got to believe that's been fun to watch them grow, because of the fact a lot of them come from, whether it's be a different background, at least different genes, right? They probably all have their unique personality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's what makes it fun.
And I bring that up because I think one thing you've done really good in this industry is bring your personality to what you do. And I think as obvious as that might sound, like, well, why wouldn't you? I think a lot of people struggle in this industry, the insurance industry, just being who they are. I think a lot of people have been taught there's a certain way to act and look to win business. But one thing I've noticed about you and the time we spent together is you are who you are. You like to have fun. You have a great sense of humor. How is that? How do you apply that to your business? Your personality of just making sure. I've seen, if I recall, I've even seen pictures of you in chaps at the stockyard in Fort Worth. What is that? How important is that to you that you just show up who you are and you have fun doing it? I've
told young producers this. because it was my case too. I think when I was learning to speak a new language in this industry, and I was very robotic in the first couple of 3 years, and it's nerve-wracking in sales and being production in our industry, and benefits and commercial lines producing property casualty. A lot of the same skills and struggles in the journey. But about that third year, I noticed that I was a lot less robotic, and I was starting to run and walk and be myself again. I didn't put it on the shelf, but we'd had a lot of fun in those early years of my career building books, and there were some people in a cohort at the agency, and we were cold calling ourselves to death and creating new relationships. But after about 3 or 4 years, you finally get your head above the clouds, and then you're like, okay, I'm not as concerned financially. Okay, I haven't made it, but I'm not as concerned financially. Therefore, I'm okay to say no and walk away from accounts. And alongside that is I'm okay just to be myself, because I don't have to impress people and kowtow and stick my hand out as much as I used to. I can be more selective. And so I think the key for me, the reason it's been important, I enjoyed, and I've always enjoyed making people laugh because it makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. I mean, oh, okay, and they have fun and they laugh and their guard gets down. Like that's just, I've always been that way. I started creating characters.
Yeah, tell the story. You and I, when we worked together, you were telling me about these characters you created in the office. You got to share this story.
Well, I did this when I was a kid. Maybe I should have wound up in Hollywood, but I probably could have done something different, more creative than insurance. And maybe that's the issue, is I've tried to bring the creativity of what really is Ross Connor into the industry, because I love what I do.
Yeah.
Certainly love getting paid for what I do and providing, but yeah, industry's great, product's great. I love risk management, protection, and advising clients and meeting new people. But I could meet new people the rest of my life doing something completely different and be fulfilled as well, because I enjoy that. But the character thing, I've always done that. And so when I started in the industry, it was it is specifically this industry. And these characters they're weird and funny. And I honestly spent a lot of time on the road driving from East Texas to Arizona as a kid. Even as a 16-year-old, I was driving by myself, going back to see my mother and back and father, and it's a crazy story. I just had a lot of time on the road. Uh-huh. So I perfected these voices and these characters, and I would run these scripts, and I was a drunk rodeo announcer. I would do performances in front of my family as a drunk rodeo announcer because I love the rodeo. And I would hear these guys with these, deep Southern drawls and these catchy, pithy phrases that were so weird, like, he's sticking his hand further in the pay window tonight, and you're like, okay. But anyway, and so that was one of them for years. But then at Hotchkiss, I was like, this is the most boring. The insurance transaction closing.
The art of selling insurance is pretty boring.
At the very end, I'm in a room with a controller or CFO or CEO with them writing on a piece of paper. We do it different now. And then I'm going to say, thank you so much. Great to work with you. And I leave. So then I created a character. I was like, and it was in our agency. It was just an email I would send out, and it was Vanilla Thunder was his name. And I just said, hey, if I sell an account, everybody, I have to have everybody call me Vanilla Thunder for the next 24 hours if I sell an account. And I wouldn't answer to anything else. And so if they were in the office going, hey, great job with the account, Ross, or Ross, can you come here? I'd ignore them, and they would go, Vanilla Thunder, and I was like, oh, yeah, can I help you? And so. But then I would create a false, fictitious narrative about how the account really went down. Like one time it was about how Frank Dolce and Vernon Gabbana had a ready-mix company. And that was how, and we wrote a ready-mix account with trucks. And that's how Dolce & Gabbana Fashion House got created, was because of all the good things we did for them. And it was just stupid stuff. And anyway, it was just this, and so.
But you know what? There's actually a lesson in there. Besides just having you tell a story because it's funny. You hear this today, actually, about a lot of like athletes, for example, where they actually put on a character. Mm-hmm. There's somebody on the field that is very different to the person they are off the field. And they will literally say, I go into character, right? Yeah. And I think the one that's probably the most well-known is, I think it's Beyonce or Rihanna, I can't remember, where she talks about Sasha Fierce. She was a choir girl growing up. So when you see her on stage now wearing barely anything, and they're like, well, how could that be a choir girl? She says, because when I get on stage, I'm Sasha Fierce. And so I think that's what you're kind of like, it's when you're in sales, you kind of are going into character.
Yeah.
to do your thing, to go win the business.
Yeah.
And if it's vanilla thunder,
Well,
you do what you do to have fun and win some business.
and I was going to say, I think the key to being yourself eventually allows you to craft a book of business and a book of clients that are like you.
And let you be that person.
Let me be that way. They appreciate it. They laugh with me. We go, I mean, and it's life. It's not business, but it becomes life. And we had a guy one time do some video testimonials for our website and some things, and they invited one of my clients, and he's become a really good friend of mine. And he was talking mostly about the personal relationship that he has with me, and it doesn't work if I don't protect and do the things I do in business. But he kept going back to the relationship, and it's just not an agent. He's a friend. I'm like, amen, amen. And I think the people there were like, hey, can you talk more about the good things the agency does? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I was kind of, hell yeah, you need to talk more about the agency.
Back to the relationship.
But he would keep coming back. And I mean, but I think the majority of your clients adapt. You adapt with each other, you know, and I'm being myself. They appreciate that, and we have this great relationship. Now, I say the majority. The other part of that is, yeah, there's a character part where sometimes I'm acting out of character even to match personalities. And the interesting thing is, when I hired in this industry, they did a personality profile on me, the agency did. And it said, and this was an issue. I had to write a long treatise as to why this wasn't true. But they said, hey, based on what we see in your answers here, you're only going to be able to sell to one personality type. I was like, there you go, that's a problem. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't think that's true. It's the first sales job I've ever had, but I was like, I think I get along with anybody. And like, oh, that's not what we're talking about. It's you know, you're going to have kind of not a one-trick pony, but there's one personality type, and you're going to do great with that, but you're not going to be able to adapt. And I'm like, I kind of took it personal. I'm like, no, I can adapt to anything. And so I think that's the character part is, hey, I'm going to come out, I'm going to be myself, but sometimes I'm going to not be myself. And I'm going to really have to go, you know.
I will say something to that, though, because I talk to our clients about this a lot. Yes, you can adapt and be a chameleon, but if you go look at your book, even though it's made up of many different personalities, your favorite clients who let you do your best work are the ones who know the true side of you.
They get me.
I have a client in Boston, female, sarcastic as hell, love her. I said, Ann, go look at your best clients. Are they sarcastic? Yes. Do they know Ann is sarcastic? Yes. I said, because those are the clients you get to show up as yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that gets overlooked in this industry because we have been led to believe all revenue is good revenue. Go get it, right? But at the end of the day, if you want to build a book of people you love working with, you're going to build it with people who let you be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes it all worthwhile. And early on, back to what I was saying, early on in the career, if that robotic phase, if you carry that too long, it requires so much energy to not be yourself. I think maybe I just got tired. I mean, you know, and
it's funny you bring that up, Ross. So at one time, I was told I'm too energetic for this role. Because when I talk with my hands. I'm doing this a lot. And I remember I had a boss. He's a mentor of mine. He said, stop that. Stop showing so much energy. And in fact, the next meeting, he literally made me take my hands, put them up against the bottom of the table like this, and I had to sit in the meeting like this. I couldn't move my hands. And you know what's funny you just said? I was literally showing less energy, but it was more exhausting. Because I couldn't be me.
You're probably lifting that table.
I was. I was trying to talk and I was doing this. But it's those people who just let you be you that ultimately become your best clients anyway.
Yeah. And allow you to do your best work because you do have the energy and it creates a passion for the client and an affection in a good way where I care about these people and it's beyond insurance, right? And
Hey, quick announcement. If you are an insurance professional looking to optimize the way you prospect and generate leads and you find yourself intrigued by LinkedIn, but just don't know where to start, I want to talk to you about the Social Media Sales Academy. Listen, the idea of diving into social media and putting yourself out there can be daunting, and the fear of presenting your best self online is real. But let's face it, the traditional methods of prospecting are failing you, and it is time for a change. Who is the Social Media Sales Academy for? If you are a driven insurance professional looking to grow your revenue, but strapped for time, you're looking for a more efficient way to prospect, and you are just watching others have success on the platform and you want to have the same success, I want to talk to you. Over 6 weeks, you are going to learn directly from me the ins and outs of LinkedIn using our proprietary playbook, the LinkedIn Diamond Playbook. By joining the Academy, you are going to learn how to create a prospect-friendly LinkedIn profile, how to find your ideal prospects and send connection requests that actually get accepted. You're going to learn how to post content that engages and attracts your ideal prospect. You'll learn how to show up on video with confidence. And you're going to learn how to send direct messages that turn connections into sales conversations. If this sounds like something you need to do, I want you to go to CompleteGameConsulting.com/academy. That is CompleteGameConsulting.com/academy. You'll jump on a call with us, see if it's a fit for you, and we'll get you enrolled. The next class starts on May 1st. I hope to talk to you soon. What do you do right now? I'm curious. You've been in the industry how long?
14 years.
14 years.
Yep.
What do you do today from whether it be habits, rituals, what are you doing to make sure you continue to stay at the top of your game? Are there certain daily habits and rituals you have to make sure you're showing up as your best?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yes. My wife always tells me, you always have a new program. And she's like, oh, another program, and we laugh about it. But I think it's true. I'm always tweaking something. There are some consistencies for sure. But faith is a huge thing with me, I think, because it's, we're talking on a Friday before Easter. And I think the lack, I don't carry a lot of weight. I don't carry a lot of regrets. I don't have burdens I carry with me. I think the lack of the weight of burden, regret, wrong, risky decisions, hard living, all those things. And granted, I love to have fun. But I think the lack, that's the faith component, the lack of burden comes in is huge for me, always has been. But kind of being a naturally compliant person, always.
There goes that people pleaser again.
Even when I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
And my kids are very curious. I was compliant. They're curious, right? And so there's these two different. I've become a lot more curious as the older I get, probably because of them, and it's changed me a little bit and loosened me up. But from a habit and program, top of the game thing, I'm allowed to run a lot easier because I don't have regret.
I like that.
I'm not weighted down. I take care of myself physically for the most part. I do. But man, I turned 50 this year. And so things change, man. And they just do. And I hired an executive coach this year.
Nice.
I never thought I would, but that's not a new program. It's just something I thought, you know what, if I've got 15 years maybe of really grinding still, and I say grind, actively seeking new relationships, right?
Nice.
If I've got that left, I want to do it really, really well. In business, in family, in travel, in leisure. I don't want to wait till I'm 65 and the kids are gone to start traveling. So we travel a lot now. It's a high ethic for our family. Our kids learn a lot. We just got back from Nicaragua 2 weeks ago, and we take adventures. But all those things help, again, with rest. But the coach has been huge, I think, and I told him that. I said, hey, I need your help to help me prioritize the big things and do the next 10 to 15 years really, really well. I may not need you for 10, 15 years, but you got to get me going.
I like that. You said something, you talked about the being in compliance. Mm-hmm. My girlfriend always makes fun of me because I'm the rule follower, being a people pleaser. She's not. And it's funny because she'll laugh at me like when we're at the pool in the summer, sitting by the pool, I'll see a kid totally disregarding his or her mother's demands. And I just want to grab the child and go, just pay attention. Just follow the rules. It's not that hard. And she laughs because she's like, dude, you are such a rule follower. I'm like, it makes life easier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you said programs. I do want you to talk about this. You shared this story a year or so ago. you went to a silent retreat, I think it was. Is that true? You got to tell the story about the retreat itself, and then as you were leaving the retreat.
So that, tag on to your question, I do take time every year to just get away completely silently away from my phone. It's about a 3-day deal. I've done it for the last 2 years. I'll do it every year. I might even start doing it multiple times a year, but at least once a year I'll do this. Because inevitably that time comes on the heels of a major trade show in Los Angeles where it's just 4 days of just
intense.
Up till 2, wake up at 6. And then it's just a vacuum. I get down to a really nice secluded ranch in South Texas, and it's led by an Anglican priest friend of mine. So it's a guided retreat through this ancient tradition, and leaving the retreat. So we come into by the end of it, you are so disconnected, but connected at the same time in the right way. And you're just leaving with this feeling of, oh my gosh, like, okay, I'm ready to engage. So phones come back on the first year. We're in this van.
Is it really a silent retreat?
Silent.
Like there's no...
You talk in a kind of a group session for 30 minutes a day, but you eat in silence and you're by yourself the entire time.
Okay.
But it's kind of guided. Which may sound miserable, right? But it's just what I need. And I'm
an introvert. That actually sounds appealing.
We drove down there the first year in a big kind of jacked up 15-passenger van, me and some buddies that I convinced to go. They thought I got them in some cult when I got down there. It was hilarious. But they came away just feeling great too. But on the way out, this van has flames on the front. I have to say that because it's the scene. My wife thought with our multicolored family that we look like a church everywhere we go. And I'm part of a church, but I didn't want to look like one everywhere I go. So we go travel and we'll go to rest stops or like, hey, what church are you a part of? I'm like, it's in my family. We're not a part of church. So she goes, I don't want to look like I'm driving a church van. So we put these big flames on it, big tires. It's awesome. So we leave the retreat. Phones come on, bing, bing, bing. And we're like talking and we just said goodbyes. And this ranch had these huge Indian deer that somebody brought them to Texas, and they're all over South Texas, called nail guy. And they're big, and the bulls are huge. They're about 600 pounds. And there's a herd of 6 of them in this little corridor with a fence area running in front of us. I'm like, oh, shoot. And 5 miles ahead of us is a major highway. And if we don't do anything, we're just going to push these things to the highway because they got trapped in this fence area. So I have the bright idea at one point, after about 5 minutes of watching them, I'm going to race past them and just race them and get past them. So my buddies are like, sure, go ahead. So I get up past them, going about 35 miles an hour, and they're staying with me. Of the 6, 5 of them turn around finally and go back the other way, which is what I wanted them to do. One of them decides to just keep running. He's running beside us. And I'm talking, Andy, 10 feet off the side of the window, this thing's running beside us. And they're hard to find. You never even see these things. They're real elusive. And I'm like, this is crazy. And we're looking at it, and about that time, that thing veers off from the thing and runs into this fence. And it's a high fence, 8 feet tall, more. Runs into the fence as hard as it can. And starts flopping around, and I slam on the brakes. Dust is flying everywhere. I get out and run over there, and within 2 minutes of hitting the fence, the thing is not breathing. It's dead. All the cars in the retreat were coming right behind me, and they see me. And the last thing that the guy told us is, hey, man, thank y'all for taking care of the place, because we get to use this place with the favor of this organization. We thank y'all for treating it so well. And you still have been asked back. We've been asked
after that. Wow.
And then so we killed a major
life lesson. Don't race through life, man.
There's a lot of lessons in that whole deal.
Well, just a couple more questions, Ross. This has been awesome. When you look back, I'm curious. You've been in the industry 14 years, had a really interesting entrance into the industry. When you look back on everything you've done, you've been with Hotchkiss the whole time.
Yeah,
which is a rare breed these days. What are you most proud of?
Building a team, without a doubt. Even more than building a book, I think it's building a team of people internally that almost the same thing we've been talking about the whole time. They get me, I get them, they let me be me. And I've learned a ton. I've been aggressive. I've been way too aggressive at times. I've learned to come off. They've given grace. There's just, I love the organization, but just the people and the team we've built enables us to go through a lot of hard stuff, man. I mean, and we have fun together. I mean, back to this thing, yeah, we have a lot of fun out of work. And I mean, if we're going to spend half of our life,
Yeah.
why would we not enjoy it?
Well, when I had Chris on, he was talking about how when they go out to meetings, I forget what they called it, but where they see how many lyrics from a song they can drop in a meeting, like having fun like that. I think that is something that is overlooked. I think too many people in this industry feel like you have to be serious and stoic to be received with credibility in this industry, and you got to have fun.
Somebody told me that early on. They go, man, if you know your stuff, and we take, we go do a lot of education and try to stay in front of everything, what's going on in the world with what we're doing and how it applies. I mean, that's a big ethic for us, education. But somebody told me this, and I've always told the young guys, I'm like, you just got to be a dude. Be a dude. Yeah. Like because that in this industry, that has not been the norm historically.
Yeah.
From people were, and again, I'm all for balance, and I understand the need to be professional, but you got to be a dude. I
love how you say that, because I would say, seeing the content you will throw up on LinkedIn once in a while, especially the photos maybe of you at the stockyards and stuff like that, you definitely get the perception that this guy's just a dude.
Yeah.
Just another dude hanging out.
And if you can't, and I guess at the point I'm at now, back to, you've asked this several times, but like if I can't do that and be myself at this point in my career, I don't engage. I just don't engage. Yeah. I'm like, and I have a lot more walkaway power than I used to.
Which I think is very impactful for people to hear, because I feel like I've gotten to that point in my life too. I'm 46, and as a people pleaser, it's very easy to try to adapt yourself to other people because you're trying to please, because you're just trying to fit in. And then you hit that point where you're like, I just don't give a shit. Yeah. Like, I'm going to be me. If you don't like me, sorry.
Yeah.
And it's such a freeing way to go about business, showing up every day that way, where I'm just going to be me. And if you don't like me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people, I think, are still caught in that, trying to be somebody they're not to please other people.
I went through a wormhole in the internet the other day, and I wound up, article led me to this article, led me to that article, and I was like, and so I just Googled Tito beverage. Created Tito's vodka, handcrafted vodka in Texas. And he was the first to really excel in the handcrafted spirits thing, certainly in Texas, and now it's all over the world. He's made $1 billion. But he said somebody gave him the advice to just take a piece of paper, draw a line through it. This is when he was going through a crisis of career, and what do I do? And they said, what do you good at on one side? What do you love to do on the other? Right, and make your decision based on those things, and it's the Venn diagram, whatever. And those exercises are interesting, because what I put on my love to do, would I put insurance? No, I wouldn't put insurance. Right, I'm good at it, but back to the team and people, and so it's. I think it's probably Those exercises kind of scare me, because what I think about is, and you hear this a lot from people, hey man, just go pursue what you want to pursue, regardless of the money. You do what you're passionate about.
And never work another day in your life.
Create your perfect day, and you go and you craft your life around that perfect day.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of wake up and I looked at that exercise, I kind of did a mental one, and I'm like, man, I'm doing it. I mean, I feel like I'm there.
Yeah. Not
that I set out to go, hey, I want to have a real flexible work schedule. I want to be able to decide what industries I engage with and the manner with which I engage them. But I would have really listed all this stuff. Do I want to be it's an interesting exercise. And to find yourself on the other side of that at 50, when it's really hard. I mean, I recycled. The financial thing we went through was in my mid-30s. I had time to recycle.
Yep.
But if you find yourself the later you go going, oh, you know what? I didn't craft the life that I really wanted to do. Yeah. I did what I felt like I had to do. Man, if we can avoid that.
Yep. Yeah. That's awesome, man. Last question.
Yeah.
A lot of our viewers are younger, just getting in the industry, probably somewhere between 28 and 40 years old. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give that younger producer who's just trying to model somebody or trying to figure it out? Maybe they feel like they're out on an island right now on their own. What would be that advice you'd throw their way?
Two things. Find a mentor and follow advice. Find a mentor and follow advice. It's the best way I know how to sum it up. I didn't have mentors as early on in life and I probably wouldn't have gotten in financial trouble had I had a good mentor. And when I got in the industry, I always said it was real prescriptive. Hey man, if you do these activities and these things, you can improve your odds, Ross, if you do certain things a certain way, but just doing them, those activities are going to lead to results. It was just prescriptive, and I didn't know any better. Yeah. I was in a bad way too. Yeah. So I had a kind of I can't fail attitude, right? But yep. I just followed advice. I'm like, y'all are smarter and it's worked for you. I can do this. And I watched those mentors and older people in the industry do it, and I'm like, I learned from them. I did some things I copied, some things I didn't.
Still got to bring it back to your way.
You do. And the advice part of that advice is, and I tell you guys all this time, you'll go 2 to 3 weeks being kicked in the teeth. Mm-hmm. Are you going to come back on the 4th week? Because that's when it makes a difference, and it will happen if you come back on the 4th week. And so I know why. They told me when I got in the industry, I don't know what the percentages are, people that don't make it. And I get it, man.
Very high.
I get it.
Well, I interviewed a guy a few weeks ago, Dre Baldwin, and he calls it the 3rd day. He's like, when you hire a trainer and you want to start exercising, you're pumped up that first day, right? You go, you get it done. First day's done. You're never really sore after that first day, right? So you show up day 2, you're just as excited. And then all of a sudden you wake up on day 3 and you're sore. And that's that moment where you go, do I keep going back? Mm-hmm. Or am I calling the trainer and saying, I can't make it today. I'm a little too sore.
Yeah.
And that's when most people give up. And you're saying that it's that you got to just keep getting after it.
Yeah.
Don't give up. Be resilient. And you said something. There's something you've done in your career that I respect. You said you just hired an executive coach. Mm-hmm. And people, I think, have this perception that I hire a coach when things are going wrong. Mm-hmm. The most successful hire people when things are good because they want to keep it going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, man. This has been awesome. I hope a lot of people heard your word, but this is, you are a testament of showing up as yourself. I enjoy watching you from afar when you put stuff out there. And so you're a model for others to follow, man. I appreciate it.
You bet. I appreciate the platform and the time, always.
That's all we got for today's episode of the Bullpen Sessions podcast. One thing that would really help us both and other new potential listeners is for you to rate this show and leave a comment in iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you tune in to listen to the show. Also, make sure to link up with us at CompleteGameConsulting.com on social media. And please share this podcast with anyone who you think might enjoy it. Until next time, remember, clarity creates confidence. Confidence creates consistency. Consistency makes you unstoppable.